Every parent, every child, every person who waits at a bus stop, walks home, or goes to work, trusting they will be safe. We cannot ignore this. We cannot look away. Compassion should never come at the cost of public safety. Care for one group should not mean danger for another. We can be a community that is both caring and responsible. We can have policies that protect people and also keep our streets safe. But that means we must act. We must listen when there are warnings. We must take threats seriously. We must make sure that people who are dangerous are not released back into our neighborhood.
That was Cheryl Minter. She is the mother of murdered Stephanie Minter. There she was testifying about her daughter's murder on Capitol Hill last week. Cheryl Minter concluded her remarks by reading Psalm 28, 1 through 9. To you, Lord, I call. You are my rock. Do not turn a deaf ear to me. Her testimony was part of a larger congressional hearing involving Fairfax County, Virginia, as we brought to you last week. Now, officials over their grievous sanctuary city policies that are to blame for the death of a young mother, Stephanie Minter. The Fairfax County Sheriff herself admitted to the media that Stephanie Minter's murder was preventable. That's because her killer was an illegal immigrant who had been released into the public to perpetuate his crimes because of Fairfax County's ridiculous sanctuary city laws. Now, here's just a taste of what the Fairfax County prosecutors and sheriff face on Capitol Hill. Watch.
You immediately reduced the burglary offense to a misdemeanor, which capped the sentence at 12 months. You then reduced the abduction charge to an offense that was a lower degree and capped the sentence at 10 years. When you entered into a plea agreement, you tried to bind the court so they could not sentence this person to any term over 2 years. Is that not correct?
Sir, I'm so glad you brought this to
Is that not correct?
Well, because I would like to explain, sir.
It is correct, and the court rejected it.
We're now joined by Stacy Langton. She is the Mama Grizzly of mamagrizzly.org. She has been one of those tireless voices for reason and the protection of children in Fairfax County, Virginia. Stacy, it's good to see you. I know you were at that hearing. You know Stephanie Minter's mother. It was heartbreaking, and you can tell us about how the room responded in a moment. But before we do that, there's some people that Minter's death really lies at the feet of some of these Fairfax officials. And in fact, a local news reporter there confronted these prosecutors who failed Stephanie Minter. And I want to watch that before we get into it. Let's watch.
Jenna, do you have an apology for Miss Minter? Because you were the prosecutor on the Abdul Jalloh case.
Thank you. We're waiting for an Uber.
You don't have an apology for Miss Minter?
Thank you. We're waiting for an Uber.
Any comment on why you dropped all those charges against Abdul Jalloh?
We're waiting for an Uber.
Statements many times about the evidentiary issues.
Yeah, this is the first time we've been able to ask her questions. Well, Jenna Sands, you were on the prosecutorial team. You were the one those emails were addressed to. Why didn't you take it more seriously?
Okay, do you want to start walking
Do
that
you
way?
regret? Do you regret
Nick, we've given specific
dropping these charges against Abdul Jalloh?
About the evidentiary issues in these specific cases.
You don't have any regrets?
We are bound by the evidence.
I'm not talking to you, Laura. I'm talking to Jenna. Jenna, do you have regrets? Police wrote you 3 separate times that Abdul Jalloh was dangerous.
First off, good job by that reporter, not letting it go. Great job. Secondly, she doesn't want to answer that question. She doesn't look apologetic at all to me. Good to see you, Stacy.
Thanks for having me, Emerald. Yeah, I want to give credit to that reporter. That's Nick Minock from WABC7, WJLA here in the DC, Fairfax, Virginia area. And God bless Nick for being such a pit bull and going after Jenna Sands so hard, because she deserves it, and she deserves to give some answers as to why she disregarded an official recommendation that came to her not once, but twice by 2 law enforcement officials. So that was Detective Buffington from Fairfax County Police and Sergeant Jeffrey Morrow from Fairfax County Police. And they wrote to her and said, do not release Abdul Jalloh back out onto the streets. He's committed multiple acts of malicious wounding, which means stabbing. And they said, he is a clear and present danger to the community and he's going to kill someone. And Jenna Sands and her boss, she's the second in command, but her boss is Steve Descano. They ignored the warnings of those two detectives and Sergeant Morrow, and they let him loose. And unfortunately, that resulted in Abdul Jalloh then stabbing Stephanie Minter to death. And it's a complete tragedy. It's a completely preventable tragedy, because if Jenna Sands had done her job and kept that monster, I see him on the screen right now, Abdul Jalloh was a monster. He belonged behind bars. And if the detectives are saying, you've got to keep this guy locked up or he's going to kill someone, why hasn't Jenna Sands answered to why she and her boss, Steve Descano, released him and he committed a murder?
These kind of people, they never ever want to answer these questions, right? They implement policies that literally kill people, but when it's time to answer or justify why they implemented these policies or why they're do what they do, they never have answers because they know there's no justification. Stacy, the really heart-wrenching moment in the courtroom was when Miss Minter's mother spoke. It was gut-wrenching. How did people respond in the room? What was the tone as she spoke? Especially she quoted the Psalms.
Yeah, well, Cheryl Minter is in a position that no mother ever wants to find themselves in, which is to have experienced the loss of a child. There is nothing worse on this earth than to lose your child. And I can't imagine how painful that must be for her. And I can't imagine how difficult it must have been and the courage it must have taken for her to sit there at that table in front of all those congressmen on Capitol Hill, a mere, 8 weeks since her daughter was murdered, and, make those statements. And so her testimony was only about 5 or 6 minutes long, but it was incredibly powerful and it was incredibly moving. And, I know these rooms kind of look sort of big on TV, right? When you see these congressional testimony hearing rooms, but they're actually pretty small. And when you're sitting in the room, you're in physical proximity to everyone else in the room. It's close, they're not that far away. And Cheryl was sitting, maybe 15 feet away from where I was sitting. And to have to hear, the quaver in her voice while she talked about her beautiful daughter, and to hear the pain. And she said, I miss my daughter every day. And I'm sorry, I have 2 daughters. And she said, I miss her smile, and I'll never see her again. I'll never get to touch her again. I'll never get to hug her again. And then when she read the Psalm, which was how she ended her testimony, it was so powerful, because that Psalm, the psalmist is crying out to God for justice and crying out vengeance for the evil that has been done to him. And that's what Cheryl Minter said. She was crying out for justice for her daughter's life. And when she finished reading that, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. I mean, every single person. I looked around and, I had tears running down my face because it was so painful. It was just so painful to witness. But I'm thankful that I was in the room to witness her testimony. And I looked over to my right, and Congressman Walkinshaw, James Walkinshaw, who is actually my congressman. I'm in District 11 in Virginia. He's a Democrat, and he was sitting right down the row, on the same row that I was sitting on, about, 30 feet down the line. And I took a photo of him because he was in tears. Everyone in the room was in tears. Everyone shed a tear. And you can't help but be moved by this tragedy. Yeah, there he is. You can see his face. He's very upset. His eyes were red. He teared up just like everyone else. And it doesn't matter if this isn't political. If you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, when innocent lives are senselessly snuffed out, it's sad and it will make you cry. And so I don't know how these Democrats are going to defend these policies, right? The sanctuary county policies that we have in Fairfax, like all the policies, these stupid, ridiculous, soft on crime, woke nonsense that Descano and Jenna Sands have been doing for the last 4 years or so. Like they're not even in favor of it when the reality is presented to them, right? So Cheryl Minter brought reality and slapped them all in the face with reality in that room. Here's what reality is like. Here's what it feels like to lose your daughter. It's the biggest, most gut-wrenching heartbreak you will ever experience. And it made them all sad. So why are they doing it? Why are they not protecting the citizens of Fairfax County? Why do they keep releasing career criminals who have been arrested over and over and over and over? How many times is enough? Why was Abdul Jalloh arrested 30 times? How about we stopped at 2? How about we stopped at 10? Why did we wait till 30? And then he stepped out again because Jenna let him go and he stabbed Stephanie to death at the bus stop. This has to stop. Like, please, just the insanity needs to stop. Stop releasing illegal aliens onto the streets when they commit crimes. Just stop.
Yeah, just stop. If that mother's testimony doesn't pull at any heart that some of them may have left, I mean, I don't know what will. And look, I've seen these angel moms, right, come and testify before Congress. I've seen them talk to people at the White House, and we still have these situations. So I don't know what it takes. I was reminded, as Ms. Minter spoke, we've been in my small group studying the book of Habakkuk, where Habakkuk the prophet is asking God, when will you enact justice? Why does the wicked prevail? And it reminded me so much of that. And, you know, it's hard in times like this to understand. It's hard to understand how this can continue. But the only way we will overcome it is with voices like yours. And I know you're constantly badgering your lawmakers and people on the Hill. You played a pivotal role in making sure that, you know, that hearing happened and that the right people were heard. So Stacy Langton, thank you for what you do. We'll continue to cover the story because this is, you know, one that can't go away, especially for Stephanie Minter's legacy. Stacy, thank you so much.
And it's not. Yeah, and really quickly, I just want to mention to your audience, it's not going away. So there is a DOJ investigation into Steve Descano and Jenna Sands, okay? The Department of Justice is now taking a good hard look at what the hell is going on in Fairfax County and why they keep turning loose illegal alien criminals onto our streets. So thank God, you know, somebody in the administration has woken up and the DOJ is going to take some action. And, you know, maybe we'll do something. I mean, I don't know. I get tired of hearing about investigations and we have hearings. And like, thank you to Representative Jim Jordan for doing the hearing because it shined a nice white hot spotlight on Descano and on Jenna Sands. Honestly, I think Jenna Sands should be fired for her incompetence. I don't know how you get Descano out because he's an elected official, but Jenna Sands is not. She should be fired. Straight up, she should be fired. But at least now we have the ball rolling. Let's get some accountability and let's stop these ridiculous woke policies that are getting people killed in Fairfax County.
Amen. You can learn how to get in the fight too at mamagrizzly.org, mamagrizzly.org. Good to see you, Stacy. Thanks for joining us for the update.
Thanks, Emerald.